Welcome to the 83rd and final episode of the GameFor Podcast. In this episode, we'll talk about the end of the podcast and the end of the GameFor platform. I'm Adam.
And I'm Matt.
And this is the last episode.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So, yeah, we wanted to make this kind of final episode to not, we just didn't stop recording, and then you guys were like, what happened?
Yeah, where are they?
Where'd they go? GameFor was, and I believe still is, a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
But, as it turns out, it's very difficult to build.
Yes.
Not impossible.
A lot of work, yep.
But it's difficult to build, and it's also very hard to monetize, and that's kind of important as we live in...
Right.
I was going to say in a society, but what I meant to say was that we live in capitalism.
Yes.
Yes.
There seems to be people that decide they want to get paid.
Right, exactly.
I mean, Jeff Bezos can't go to the moon,
right?
On hopes and dreams.
No. As much as hopes and dreams, I would give him hopes and dreams to send him to the moon. I would certainly do that.
Right.
But yeah, so there's been a lot of discussion, there's been a lot of talk, and it's been going on throughout most of 2022 here in the offices, and it's just something we kind of recently decided after having a couple different meetings with outside people and this and that and whatnot, and it's just... and there's a lot of reasons we'll go over here real quick, but just to give a bit of...
historical context?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we started all this... We launched it in early 2018, and this is an idea that you and Jason had had for quite some time.
Yeah, I think like pretty much the start of Milk Can, so like 2015-ish.
Yeah, because I started working here in July of 2016.
Yep.
And was brought in to be UX UI, but also because of my background in tabletop gaming and such like that. So there was that. And we built it. We launched it in early 2018, and it kind of grew and grew. We didn't have like VC money, like venture capital or anything like that.
No, it was all bootstrapped by Jason and I.
Yeah.
We racked up quite a bill, but we were able to kind of pay for it with Milk Can money and personal investment. And
that bill was predominantly based off that was paying developers and such for the most part. I mean, obviously there was also
and server costs. I mean,
server costs, and then go into things like Gamma and stuff like that. But we didn't have a ton of money to put into specifically like marketing per se.
Yeah, there was very little that we could afford to put on marketing on top of that, and we were still, multiple six figures,
right,
easily in there. So.
And so I was kind of marketing as far as like when we first launched it, and I made a video about it and stuff like that, and that it took off relatively well early on. I remember we were at the Gamma trade show in Reno, Nevada in 2018, and on the Android, hot apps or whatever for was it social apps or free apps? Like we were like number 8 or 3 or something for a couple of hours, I think.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, a lot of people were downloading at once, and so velocity and analytics and algorithms and other words. But anyway, yeah. So we grew it to what? 50,000 people registered users?
Registered was around 50. So based on the other numbers, we were in the realm of 60 to 70,000.
Because you could use the app without registering. You could just use it to look at it, stuff.
And we had a pretty good idea of what the ratio was there. So yeah, about 60 to 70,000 people were using it.
Mm-hmm. And then we went to the Gamma Expo, the Game Manufacturers Association Expo in Reno, Nevada in early 2020. And we had a really good show.
Yeah, we were like, okay, we finally...
That was our third at that point, right?
Yep. And it was at that point that going into that one, we kind of knew where our budget was, where our runway was kind of running out, and what our goal was of what we had to come out of Gamma with. And at the time, because that was just as people were starting to cancel, so that, overseas people were canceling out the last couple days leading up to it. There's a mad scramble of people canceling at the last minute
to the trade show.
So we were but if we can come out with this amount of advertising commitment, we'll be doing good.
Because
And
that was the main monetization plan, was that we were building our own ad network. So you weren't going to see ads for Clash of Clans and Geico and whatever. You were going to see ads for tabletop gaming related stuff.
based on what you were searching, so not even
Exactly.
like who you were, but if you were searching for board games, then there'd be stuff that
show
was
you
targeted
board
towards
game
gamers
ads.
games.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we had been selling ads, and when we went to that show, we had a lot of people that were like, okay, this is the third show. We've been seeing this. Things are really, this is great. And we came back from that show. Well, okay.
We were on when the show wrapped and we were packing up our booth, we
Right.
were like, holy cow, we hit our target and then some.
Yep.
And even have some commitments that by the end of the year, we were probably going to finally,
Yeah.
be able to really put some money in and really take the platform off.
Yeah. But while we were there at the convention, I remember one night we were out at dinner.
Yep.
I don't remember if it was Wednesday or Thursday. I feel like it was Wednesday because we flew out on Friday the 13th. I distinctly remember
sounds
that.
right. Yep.
So Wednesday night we're at this like steak place that's
Ruby
like
Steakhouse. Yep.
yeah, it's like across the street from the big Peppermill resort. And, there's lots of TVs on in there because it's kind of a sports bar-y sort of place. But good steak. If you're ever there, you should check it out. Hashtag not sponsored. But while we were there, the NBA got canceled.
Yeah, NHL and then the NBA and March Madness.
Did NFL too? Or did they wait a while on that?
Well, NFL wasn't ready. It wasn't
that's
there.
why it's not in March. No.
So it was the NBA, NHL, and March Madness.
Right.
And I forget the exact order those were announced, but
Exactly.
they were all like pretty rapid shots.
During dinner, we're sitting there like, oh, geez, oh. Because these are all multi-billion-dollar corporations
Yeah, that
and
we're gonna.
organizations.
That was when, I think that was when for us was like, oh, okay, if they're willing to shut that down,
Right.
then this is bad.
That's bad news. And then I remember also during that, and I'm sitting there at dinner the whole time going, please don't shut down Adepticon, please don't. And then I got an email going, yeah, Adepticon's not going to happen. I'm like, God.
Yep.
So anyway,
Yeah, and then we started going, crap, is our flights going to get canceled on the
right.
way home? Or
I
are we gonna
remember
have to
flying
drive
home on
back?
a nearly empty plane. I feel like.
Yeah, it was like kind of weird in the airports. It was like ghosts and
Yeah. There were literally people walking around in sheets with holes cut in them.
yeah, it was weird.
I don't know where they got those sheets. Nonetheless, you're all familiar with what happened next. And, we initially were like, well, this will happen for like a month or so and we'll be fine. Well, it's July of 2022. And I just got back from Gen Con and had to wear a mask the entire time and had to have proof of vaccination. And that'll probably still... there was a lot of us that were... Like, the people I was staying with, we had like me and 6 other guys. And we had a couple of different conversations about like, so do you think this is going to be a requirement again next year? And I think yes.
I
hope
don't know
not.
anymore.
God, I hope not. Having a beard, walking around in a mask in Indianapolis in 95-degree heat... when you're like inside of even when you're inside a building and the AC's on still, you just get damp. It's just your face. Anyway, no one else is having this problem besides me, of course.
Right.
No. But yeah, we're not. Things just still aren't back to normal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And there's some people that are probably like, well, I can game at my local shop now, but sure, but even there are some places where everything's kind of back to normal from maybe your perspective. But
yeah, I think there are places where like the owner wants it to be back to normal, but like I know, like the 2 shops in my town, both of them have Friday Night Magic running again, but both of them don't have the numbers they used to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. The numbers are they're still not where they were. I mean, there was no ticket limit on Gen Con. As far as I know,
they had. They just announced. I think on Monday they had a press release that went out that said they had over 50,000. So, which last year, 2021, it was 35,000, but in 2019 it was 72,000.
Right. So that's
and the 35,000 was a limit. They're like, we're cutting it off
Right.
here. There was no limit this year. And
so you're still looking at like a third less people.
Now, again, this year at Gen Con, they required proof of vaccination. Not even like show us a negative test. You had to have a vaccination. I'm sure that probably kept some folks at home.
Yeah, and there's talks about recessions and there's stuff in Ukraine and everything else. So there's shipping issues and there's a lot of doubt and uncertainty. And so even if your gaming stores are back to normal levels, a lot aren't. and a lot of publishers aren't at that. And the key there is also they're not ready to spend money on. They're not willing to gamble on advertising,
which is interesting because, as we've seen a lot, and it depends on the industry, whether you're talking about board games, card games, miniatures. Like in the miniatures realm, 2021 was awesome. Like they, like because everybody was kind of stuck home painting and stuff like that and whatever, and so there was a lot of that. But it wasn't that way across the board. Like D&D, like RPG stuff, didn't necessarily see as big of a jump necessarily because people kind of have their books and whatever, and they can RPG over Roll20 or Discord or whatever, but you didn't see a huge uptick in that stuff. And now we're starting to see, like Games Workshop specifically has mentioned that 2022 is down in comparison to 2021, but the line doesn't always go up. When you have this weird, crazy, hopefully once in a lifetime kind of pandemic thing, you're going to see some things change, and then they'll.
And even them, they're still having to delay stuff that was supposed to come out that's not coming out till the end of the year.
Yeah, they're having issues in like getting things to the stores and to the distribution because it's stuck on a boat because everything pandemic and whatnot, and that's right. it all. I don't want to say trickles down, but it kind of does.
So that's kind of the gaming industry as it kind of relates to the GameFor monetization.
Right.
So, and then the other side of the coin is that Milcan has been doing pretty well.
Milcan being the company that
paychecks, yeah.
Right, exactly.
We've been very busy. However, like everything, resources are hard to find. Rates are up, so and we've never been one to just hire people rapidly because we like to grow people in, and we also want to make sure that slow measured growth because we don't lay people off and stuff like that. So we are all super, super busy. And so then it's rather than us all having like 10 hours of, open time every week that we could devote to GameFor, we have zero time. Our weekends and evenings are sometimes being spent getting project work done. And so,
so a lot of a lot of GameFor was originally built on what's known as bench time. And bench time is
basically the space between projects or extra resource hours that maybe a project only requires half a resource, so half their time is not so.
Right. And the thing is that there's just very little bench time right now as well, so there's that as well. But again, the busy work, billable work has been great. Yeah. But it doesn't leave much space for a thing that we're not 100% sure
can be monetized, and it would take a lot of work to get it back up. The platform's got to be rewritten based on just kind of the change in online support and a bunch of other things where we targeted that would have to be done to make it work a second time around.
The old version was written technically 3 times, which is to say it was written for iOS, it was written for Android, and it was written for web.
Right, because at the time there was not a good cross-platform solution.
Right. Now, since this is launched, or since this has gone on and whatnot, there is a pretty good cross-platform kind of thing we can use called Flutter.
Right.
And we've been doing a bunch of projects with.
Yeah, and it would help us, but we'd have to get to the point where we had stuff out.
Yeah, it wasn't like we could just take what we had and just kind of pick up where we left off. Yeah. It was going to be a retool, which we'd mentioned many times.
Yeah, and so you get all that together, it's another very large investment to get it back to a place where there's possibility of possibly looking for advertising money. And in 2 to 3 years, possibly we could break even if things rapidly got back to improvement, which there's no guarantee.
Right.
And so, with all that kind of uncertainty and
not
stuff,
wanting to go the venture capital route and all that jazz.
We just decided that for now it's just not the right environment. There's other stuff that Jason, who's the other owner of Milk Can, myself, and Adam, we kind of want to dedicate ourselves to some other personal projects and time and stuff. So that was kind of
we talked about like, well, maybe we could do just GameFor totally on the side, and then we all kind of looked at what we're already doing. I mean, I don't know that I need a fourth job. You know what I mean? And you've got you've got your kids and stuff and everything, and they're all in sports
and full-time gig and running Milk Can, and
exactly all that stuff. Yeah.
So
it becomes down to a time issue, and especially when it is looked at as, well, this might make some money down the road, maybe. Like, I love the concept, and if all things being equal, if just I could run on straight altruism, I would totally be able to do that. And we all would.
Yeah.
But it's just not at this point something that's out there.
And then, so that was kind of that's what the kind of decision came to finally this past week, that led to that. So then, the discussion came to the GameFor Podcast. Like, well, do we keep that going? Do we rebrand it? What do we do with it? And that's when we started looking at the numbers of subscribers, and are we still getting
Listens
more?
And stuff,
are we getting more people listening to it? Are people tuning in, tuning out? I would say it's basically flat for 2022.
Yeah, I mean, like, it started to take off. We started in June of 2019, and it had been growing and growing, and then doing pretty well that way. But it had gotten a bit flat over the last, I would say over this first half of the year, it had definitely been, which is, again,
it
line doesn't always go up,
right,
for sure. And, things could change and whatever, and it could go up, but it wasn't like it was, like, if it was a situation where it was just runaway breakneck, we'd be like, well, geez, we should at least figure out what to do with this. But it had been, it's,
right.
And it's also, I got to be honest, I think that in gaming podcasts, there's a lot of gaming podcasts out there that do reviews of games, because then you've always got something to talk about.
Right.
We don't really do that, so we got to come up with a new subject every 2 weeks or whatever, and sometimes it's kind of hard, I mean,
yeah. Sometimes we're like, oh, we've got like 3 things, and we can kind of pull from the list, and things are wonderful, and we're super happy. And then there's
other times where, like, the day before, we're like, what the heck are we going to talk about?
At lunch, really.
Right? Yeah.
We need to record after lunch. What are we talking about today?
So, like, with all of that, it's kind of become a decision to sort of.
Yeah, and you've probably heard this on other podcasts. Like, it's not just the hour every 2 weeks of recording time. There's also like 4 to 8 hours of editing, show notes, putting stuff together, publishing it. All that stuff. So, again, time that can be devoted to other stuff, other projects, and stuff. So,
yeah. So, again, it's a situation where maybe down the road, maybe something else crops up in its place. Maybe not. It's hard to say. One
of our dedicated listeners wins the next $1 billion lotto ticket, and is like,
hit us up. So
I'm gonna spend, I'm gonna give you guys money just to do this.
Yeah.
Then absolutely, we would do that hands down. We'll even give you a good rate.
Yeah, totally. Like a really good rate.
Yeah. But outside of that,
right?
It's just right now not in the cards.
Yeah, I'd like to see somebody make something kind of like this, if possible. Well, it is possible. We know it's possible. We've done it once. It's not, But the thing is that, and we've had this happen before, where like game companies have come to us and talked about it, and they've been like, "Hey, well, we'd like you to, But the thing is, if you're a game company and you want to make a list like this, it's probably just going to be for your game. You're not going to put your competitors' events in there. You're not going to put, you know what I mean? So that's the issue, where it kind of needs to be independent if it's going to be useful. There's nothing wrong with you as, let's say, some big company being like, we want to have a good system set up so that all of our demo team people, you can see like where these events are happening or tournaments. And we've worked with companies before on that, game companies, where they're like, we have like a lot of, organized events, and we have this and we have that, and we all this stuff, and demo team and all that jazz. And they've got a thing on their website, like a widget. And, people can put stuff in there. We've worked with that kind of thing before. The idea originally was that stuff will go on your website, but then it will also go directly into GameFor. So people who don't know about your website look at GameFor and go, oh, there's a game of this going on in my local shop. I don't even know what that is. I'll go check it out, that's the stuff that that's the pie in the sky, I think, to some degree. Well, it's not pie in the sky. It's doable. It's just monetizing is difficult.
Right. There's you're like, okay, well, that should make money. And then you go, okay, so then you start looking at time, hours. And then when you start looking at money costs, then you have the same issue. Publishers start going, well, should I spend money on that? Or should I go to another 2 or 3 shows and just...
Or do I just keep using
demos,
Facebook?
Or do,
you know what I mean?
Do I still use Facebook
then,
and just give Zuckerberg more money?
Right, and then all those problems that come along with that as well. So yeah, that is part of the issue, I think. So nonetheless, we've had a good time doing this, I think.
Yeah.
And all things being equal, if we had a ton more time, we would probably continue to do it.
Yeah, when we go to those 36-hour days.
Right. No, when is that happening? Is that when we go metric?
I think so.
That'd be pretty cool.
Well, then it'd be
100-hour days.
days.
Yeah, probably, at least. Or hopefully not 10-hour days. That would suck. But yeah, so, we appreciate everyone that has listened and contributed over the years and all that kind of stuff. And neither of us is going to disappear, technically.
Right. As far as, we're not just...
I have some pocket sand, but I think it came out in the wash. So I'll still be Tabletop Minions. If you haven't heard of that, you should check that out. You can find it on YouTube and Twitch. And then also me and my good friend Vince Venturella we have a game company called Snarling Badger Studios. You can find out more at snarlingbadger.com as well. And then Matt has still got gamingmatter.com.
Yep. mattr.com.
Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
And that's where you do
3D printing and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then, of course, also, if you are, and this is the thing, part of us being busy, but still, if you're looking for
tabletop gaming, like if you're a company that's looking for ways to digitally build, promote your website or mobile project, or you just have another website or mobile project, you can always find us at Milkcan, and that website is milkcan.io, which is, again, www.milkcan.io.
Right. If you want to take a look at some stuff that we've done recently, you could go check out the Cuphead Fast Rolling Dice Game app, which is a companion app for the board game. It has a built-in timer, has music from the game, and
social sharing,
and it does all the scoring for you and all that kind of stuff. We worked with the publisher of that game. We've been doing websites for a lot of different game publishers, but we also do normal, boring, stuff as well that's not game related. So yeah, definitely check that out. Well, thanks again for listening to this final episode of the GameFor Podcast. If you've got questions or comments and you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment below. If you're listening via your favorite podcast player or just aren't into the whole YouTube comment section thing, then you can feel free to reach out to us via email at podcast@iamgamefor.com. We'd love to hear from you. We want to thank all of you who've listened and chatted with us over the years. Be good to each other and keep enjoying tabletop gaming.
Thanks.
Thanks.